Second International Conference of Working Women in 1910, a day for working class and revolutionary movements to mark the common struggle for social, political and economic rights for women. 100 women from 17 countries, representing unions, socialist parties and working women's clubs, adopted the proposal unanimously. In 1911, the first march was organised by word of mouth and in the press. But it's not so easy to this day, because this has been organised by word of mouth, email and Facebook. And in the first march, they expected very small numbers, and they were overwhelmed by the response that they got. And some of the biggest marches were 30,000. Well, we haven't got 30,000, but I think this is a pretty good march today. So real progress, what Cara Second knew is that real progress could only be achieved through understanding that women's oppression is a struggle of the entire working class. Women have marched in support of equal pay, the right to work, the rights of married women, because it's not that long ago that married women had to leave the workforce. Well, women had to leave the workforce as soon as they got married. And that's still in the minds of some people who've actually experienced that, so it wasn't that long ago. The right to vote, for women's services, and for women's reproductive rights, and many other social, economic and political rights. And a lot of these things have not fully been realised. You know, reproductive rights, abortion law is still in the criminal code in a number of states in Australia. In Australia, the first International Women's Day March was in 1928, and that march was for the defeat of fascism. And in 1938, the first march was held in Western Australia, and that march was for the rights for Aboriginal women. So progress has been made. We did get the right to vote. We have gains on pay rates, education, childcare, women's services, abortion, but as I said before, a lot of this has a lot more to be realised before we really have what we want in those areas. Today, 100 years after, the objectives of the movement have actually got diverted, and progression has not only stalled, but many of the gains from years are being wound back. And this is what happens when women stop being a strong voice. We know that when women are a strong voice, it's like a tsunami. We can make change in our society. But when that voice gets quiet, when that voice gets weaker, we start to lose some of the gains we've made. And we see now that gender pay equity is actually getting worse. It's 17-18% in Australia, and in Western Australia, women get 25% of the male rates. And there's a lot of issues in that. It's not just about getting paid the same thing for the same job. It's that women often don't get the same access to the same jobs and positions that men get. And most of our graduates start out already behind men. The entry point for our graduates with the same education as their male counterparts are often paid less as they enter the workforce, and that just gets worse over the years. So, a lot of women too, we see women now in positions of power. So-called glass ceiling has been broken, but they are still the exceptions, and we shouldn't stop marching until they're no longer the exceptions. Many IWD events now celebrate, well, the exceptions rather than advance the interests of working class women. And we need to reclaim the original intent of this day. So in 2011, women globally are experiencing systems of deepening of economic, food, ecological and social crises. And these crises all are from an overexploitation of labour and the environment. And we need to call for a change for that, so that our children not only have something to inherit, but something better. Not just some children, but all children. So we need to keep marching until Aboriginal children can expect the same life expectancy of other Australians. Until refugee children never see the inside of a detention centre. Until all governments take the environmental crisis seriously. And until our daughters and granddaughters can expect real pay equity and a level playing field in the workplace. Until discrimination in the workplace and the home has ended. Yeah. She's from the Revolutionary Socialist Party and she'll say a few words, and then we're going to march on again. Thank you.
Bravo.